Okay, I want to give you a quick review of my Trek Checkpoint SL6 Gen 3 bike. I've had this bike now for 4 months, got about 1,500 miles on it. Rode it a lot on pavement and gravel and different dirt road type surfaces. Of those 1,500 miles, 7 of those rides have been Century or Century Plus rides, with the 2 longest being 134 miles and 146 miles. So I've got a lot of miles on the bike over the 4 months. It's not my primary bike. I primarily ride my Trek Madone road bike. I picked this up to go on multi-day bike touring or bike rides, and also to use occasionally on gravel. So that's primarily what I picked it up for, was just to go on multi-day trips. And I've taken so far 4 of those. I've from 3 days to 5 days in length where I've taken this bike, and it's all worked out pretty good. So really enjoying this bike. It rides really well, and I'll go over and cover some of the things I've discovered during the first 4 months and 1,500 miles on this bike. First thing, this bike is very comfortable to ride. Whether you're on gravel or pavement, very comfortable feeling. I think with these really thick front forks, and then you've got these wider diameter tubes on the frame, and then this ISO speed on the rear, as you're hitting bumps and rocks and holes and things as you're riding along, it really displaces and deadens the energy as it comes up to the saddle and the handlebars. So you're not getting all that shock when you're hitting those type of things when you're riding. So it really displaces that energy to make the ride a lot more comfortable. So I seem to like that. So when I'm going out on those gravel roads, I've taken it so far out on the Lake Apopka Loop Trail a few times. I've gone out to Citrus Wild Management in the Withlacoochee Forest. I've gone out to Green Swamp, and I've also hit dirt roads and grass roads and some other things during my travels, and it seems to ride very well. Now, if you do hit some, I was on a road the other day that was a dirt road that was about 3 miles long that hadn't been maintained in a long time, and the whole 3 miles was nothing but washboards, and there was no way you could get out of the washboards. You couldn't go to the left or right and find a smooth spot. The whole road was washboarded out. And by the time I got to the end of that 3 miles, I could feel it. I mean, it rattled me pretty good. So, but I don't think any bike would get through that unless you actually had suspension on your bike. But as far as on your normal gravel riding and dirt road riding, you know, it does seem to displace a lot of that and deaden that jolts as it's coming up through the bike, and it rides very comfortable. I mean, especially like when I was on that 134 mile ride and the 146 mile ride, I was still feeling good at the end of those rides. Like I got to go on further. It was so if you're looking for an endurance bike to go on long trips and you want to go both on road and off road, this would be a really good choice for this. I do have the Bontrager MIK Deluxe rack on the back, because most of the time when I'm riding, I'll have my Bontrager back rack bag on the top, and then when I go on my multi-day trips, I end up putting my Ortlieb gravel pannier bags on the back that I pack all my clothes and extra shoes and stuff like that in. So a lot of times I'll have this bike really weighed down when I'm going on my trips. Now let me just go over starting at the bars and go my way back. Real comfortable on these hoods. I'd say 95% of the time when I'm riding, I'm on the hoods, and then if I'm not on the hoods, I'm on the tops, and then occasionally if I have to fight a heavy headwind, I'll get on the drops. But no matter what position I'm in, it's very comfortable. So like the bars, like the hoods, like the shifters, everything's fine. The saddle, I know saddles are personal preference, but this saddle feels real comfortable. I don't have any issues with this saddle. I mean, even when I was on those Century Plus rides, the saddle felt good and comfortable. No issues with that. First bike with a 1x drivetrain, and now that I've got a lot of miles on, or good number of miles on it, and I've hit some hills, hit some bridges, climbing out of tunnels, different types of terrain that I've pedaled on. The one-by drivetrain is very good on this bike. The spacing and the gearing, I can always find a good gear to ride in. It's not like, because of the wide ratio rear cassette, that I'm like either having to spin real fast or torque real hard. I can always find a nice comfortable gear to be in when I'm pedaling. So the spacing on their gear ratios, they nailed it on that. I've got no complaints on this one-by drivetrain as far as riding it. Now keep in mind, I'm in Florida, so it's not like I'm in a mountainous environment or I've got really large hills, but I have taken it on some of the Florida hills, and it's working fine for me there. Some things that I've changed so far, the tires. The tires worked fine if I was just doing gravel riding, but when I started going on my multi-day adventures and I was loading everything up on the rear rack and I was getting out on different types of paved sections, I was getting a lot of flat tires. I mean, I was getting at least one flat a day, sometimes 2, 3. At one day I got 4 flats in one day. So I was just getting too many flats on those type of rides. So for what I was using this bike for, I just lost confidence in those tires, and so I switched over to these Continental Top Contact 2 tires. And I've taken these out on Lake Apopka Loop. I took it out at Green Swamp. Took them out in the Citrus Wildlife Management and with Lakuchi, and so I got to ride in a lot of different gravel and dirt and even some sand environments, and those tires work good for what I want them for. The only time I am having issues if I get in deep sand, like if you hit some deep sugar sand or real deep sand, they'll just spin and then you get off and I have to push the bike. But aside from that, I'm sticking with those. I'm now running them with tubes. One thing I didn't like about the initial setup that came tubeless was I was getting puncture flats and the sealant wasn't sealing the punctures, so I would end up having to throw a tube in anyways and it would just create a mess. So one thing I would have done different when I first took delivery of this bike, I probably would have told the Trek dealer, hey, when you set it up, don't put the sealant in the tires, just pump some air in. I know the air is going to leak out, but then I'll just drive the bike, put the bike in my van, take it home, and when I get home I'll pull the wheels off, take the tires off, throw in some TPU tubes or some regular tubes and put them back together and just run with tubes right from the get-go, because that sealant wasn't working at all for me. Every time I got a puncture flat, it would just spray the sealant everywhere and I'd end up having to throw a tube in. So that was just my experience with those stock tires that came on this bike. Another thing that changed was I went with the SRAM Rival spindle-based power meter crank. So that was I think with tax right around $300 for that, and I put that on. One thing about this SRAM crank, it is a pain in the butt to get off. I mean, it's nothing like the YouTube video where they show the person just taking it off real easy. It's not like that. I had to use a 3-foot breaker bar in order to get the crank off and then put the new crank on. And then I tried a couple times just to see if it was just stuck that one time. I'd put it back on, torque it to spec, and the only time I could get it off, like in the YouTube video that SRAM posted, was if I put it on, torqued it to spec, and did not ride the bike. Then I could get it off real easy, just like in the YouTube video. But if I torqued it to spec and then just went for even a 3 or 4 mile ride, then brought it back, tried to get the crank off, no, I'd have to use the breaker bar to get it off. It was a pain in the butt to get this off. And if you work on your own bikes, so let's say you want to clean and re-grease your bottom bracket bearings, or you want to replace your bottom bracket bearings and you do it yourself, that's a pain to deal with on this bike. That's the only thing that I really dislike about this bike, is how difficult it is to get that SRAM crank set off and get to the bottom bracket. So on all my other bikes I've got Shimano group sets and it's really easy to get the crank set off, get to the bottom bracket. On this one it's not. Another thing that I noticed on this bike was somehow it leaks in this compartment. So I noticed that after I got done washing the bike, I hadn't filled the emergency tube kit up yet. I was just carrying everything in my cycling jersey when I first got the bike. So I decided after I washed it the first time, I was gonna take that tube, the emergency tube kit out, fill it up and put it back in there. And when I pulled it out after I washed the bike, it was soaking wet. So put it back in there after it dried out. Next time I washed my bike, and I'm not using a pressure washer, I'm not even using like the Jetstream on the garden hose. I'm using just this shower setting where it just sprays a light mist type on the bike as I rinse it off after I wash it. And then I open this up after I dried the bike off, and this whole tube here was all wet. So now what I do is anytime I wash the bike, before I wash it, I pull this out, sit it aside, put this back on, then wash the bike, dry it, and then I put my emergency tube kit back in. The reason I do that is because it's a material, and if it gets wet and it just stays in that dark compartment, at least down here in Florida, it's going to grow mold. So I don't want that thing growing mold inside my bike. So I pull that thing out every time I wash the bike and then put that cover back on. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you get this and you're washing your bike. Pull that out first before you wash it, then put it back in. Brakes, the brakes work really well. The only issue I have with the brakes is anytime they even get a little bit damp, they really make an ear screeching sound when you apply the brakes. But then as soon as they dry off, they go back to being super quiet again. So I put some brake cleaner on there on both the pads and the rotors, and that didn't seem to help. It's like if I go out on a ride and it's foggy in the morning, or it's misting, or a light rain, you get any type of moisture on those rotors, and it just, I mean, my Shimano's do that too, but not near as bad as these SRAM brakes. Another thing, I'm gonna have to replace the bar tape. The bar tape just started doing this. It started coming apart and separating, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace the bar tape on these. Probably get that done, do that next week sometime. But overall, yeah, I really like this bike. I don't have any major issues with it. Everything seems to work well. Very comfortable bike to ride, especially if you're going long distances. Plenty of places to mount. I haven't mounted anything on the front forks. I just got my bag in, my triangle bag that mounts right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount that probably in the next couple of days and start using that middle bag up there. One thing I may have to do when I get that middle bag in here, it's going to be hard to get this water bottle in and out, so I may have to replace this water bottle cage with either a left-handed or right-handed water bottle cage, so I get the bottle out from the side rather than pulling the bottle out. So I'm thinking if I pull it out, it's going to run into that triangle bag right there, and that's going to cause an issue for me. I haven't had any issues with the shifting or the group set. Everything's been working fine on that. Yeah, so I really love this thing. I think, you know, I have no issues why I wouldn't buy this bike again. As far as the SL5, do I regret like getting this and paying a few $100 more for this when I could have got the SL5? No, I think getting this was the one I wanted. Should I have paid a lot more money and got the SL7? No, I think this is the perfect bike for me in their group range of SL5, SL6, SL7. Is, you know, I'll take the SL6. It has everything I need. It does everything. The wheels, they roll really well. I don't really see a need for what I'm doing to upgrade the wheel set to anything else. But yeah, it's just a really great bike, and if you're thinking about getting this, I'd go ahead and get it. I don't have any regrets about buying this bike. The only thing I just wish it was a little easier to get that SRAM Rival crank set off when it's time to service the bottom bracket. But if you're the type of person that takes your bike to the local bike shop and have them replace your bottom bracket, then it's not even an issue for you. That's only an issue for the home mechanic that wants to do it themselves. Okay, oh yeah, the white paint. I really like the white paint, except it gets dirty really quick. So it does show the dirt a lot. But as far as the way the paint job looks, it looks really good when it's clean. So Just something to keep in mind if you're thinking about getting between the white one or the blue one. The blue one might not show the dirt as bad as the white one, but when the white one's clean, it's got a really nice shine and reflection to it. Okay, well, that'll wrap things up. Once again, I really enjoy this bike, and I'm glad I got it. And if I had to do it all over again, yeah, I'd buy this exact same bike. That's it.